Welcome to my channel, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Today's presentation, we are going to talk about Unmasking the Truth, Black Women, Trauma, and Breaking Cycles. This is not just another talk, this is reckoning. Today, we peel back centuries of silence, abuse, and systemic neglect, but we also highlight resilience, leadership, and the power to break cycles. According to historian Dana Ramey Berry, in the price for their pound of flesh, even during slavery, black women's bodies were literally accounted for in ledgers as property. That legacy of control and violation didn't vanish, ladies. It evolved into stereotypes, discriminatory practices, and systemic neglect. By the end of this presentation, you will see the truth, not just through emotions, through data and lived experience that cannot be denied. Now, Black women carry what I call a double burden. We are expected to perform, to lead, to nurture, yet simultaneously undermined by stereotypes that paint us as angry, too independent, or undeserving of protection. The CDC's 2019 National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey reported that more than 40% of Black women experience intimate partner violence in their lifetimes, far higher than the rates for white women. Ignoring this data, ladies, erases the lived reality of millions. 40 You got to think of 40% out of millions of black women. You need to go and figure out that math. That's a lot. Out of millions, not the people in your community, not the people in the next community, right? 40% divided by, let's say we have 40 million black people, supposedly in the United States, and more black women than black men, right? So let's say out of that 40 million, again, I'm gonna just put out this number. There's let's say 30 million black women out of 40 million black people, and then you take that and you have the 40% that's taken from that. So 40 million out of, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. You have 40% divided by the 40 million times 100. Ladies, that's a lot. We can't be blind. You can't say to yourself, you love black people, yet we're not diving deep. Because, and this is why I'm getting into this presentation, because we can no longer hold blinders. It cannot just be about the men in our community, right? It has to be about our mothers, our aunts, our uncles, our children. That's literally what it has to be about. So we cannot continue to put on blinders. We cannot use religion to cover up anything. We cannot uh, let women, other black women, go out here and be ignorant as hell, talking about I said what I said, but it's only emotional. It's better to stand 10 toes knowing you got data or experience that'll back you up. I'm not gonna, I'll say, I challenge people a lot, especially when I'm coming across comments and just things that I feel that I value, right? But I challenge people. And I don't ever feel like I'm coming with some lies because I don't have to lie. I don't have to lie to people. I know how to read, I know how to gather research enough that I don't have to lie. There's a lot of people who just have to lie because they don't stand 10 toes on nothing. And lies are to scapegoat what people have been spreading across the internet, accountability, but who has the responsibility for your own person, the responsibility for your own kids, the responsibility of the economic situation that is at hand here and that has been at hand. There's nothing wrong with going and having fun and do your thing because we have to release that anger. And that's another reason for this presentation because it's to truly focus on us. So, there may be people that watch this and completely, this information is going to go over their heads. And I'm going to tell you why it's going to go over their heads because they never read anything. They don't research anything. They don't read to understand. They read to think they're going to debate you. A lot of people, some of you ladies, be involved in debates, and the other person has nothing to debate about, no substance, no nothing. And you sit there and you're debating them. I no longer debate people who I know for a fact they don't have any information backing them up because if they did, they would be pulling stuff like I'm pulling. They would be unbiased. If they truly love their community, they would be unbiased. Some of y'all want to link up with all these other people. We need to stop that for now. We need to, I'll say this, we need to always have allies, but we need to not be dumb of our economic situation. You got people around here mentally ill, dreaming of things that they think they can do, and we ain't seen nothing yet, right? A lot of people in our community are leaning on the smartest to do the work for them when it takes all of us. It takes the little details, the smallest detail every day to do the work. Calling out other black women, you got to recognize the mental illness in each other. The envy, the jealousy, mothers being abusive to their daughters or just children, okay? Some of y'all say some of the most crazy. Now, I can say some stuff. I'm not going to lie, but I do not approach or say things to be ignorant. I don't need to be yelling. I don't try to get in yelling matches because it doesn't serve me. I already know I won if that's what you're going to do. But we have to get to the ground floor. And what made me do this because, I've seen videos, of black women acting out. And again, these aren't black women that I look at myself in. Like, I don't see that, but the concern I see. For example, there was a channel, a crime channel I came across, and this black woman, um, I guess she abused her daughter, right? And the grandmother was so mad that she ended up pulling a knife on the mother, and the police ended up taking that woman to jail. But then, and I'm not going to say, I can't say this was something going on with her mentally because you can hear just this random extra humming or whatever people want to call out. It sounded like she could just be humming a song and not really just, murmuring anything. But we do have black women out here like that. You can go to homeless areas and you can talk to some and they off. You can come across women that you're talked to and they sound off. And I don't mean coming across women and because you're so deep in gossip and men that you can't realize that that woman is probably saying something important, but because of your ignorance, your tantrums, your emotional issues, we have to understand it is affecting us and we cannot lie about that shit. We can't lie. Now, this is not to tear us down, but this is to tear apart the things that we keep putting band-aids on, right? We continue to put band-aid and oh well we don't do this and white women do that. Like we gotta stop. I just want to stop worrying about other communities where we're still on that level. You cannot say black excellence. You cannot scream that out and shout it out loud, yet go out here and be the complete opposite of black excellence. If you only knew where we came from, you should be have some pride in your damn self to not be out here playing around. Okay? So let's get into it. Now, why this conversation matters. Black women carry what I call a double burden. Okay? We are expected to perform, to lead, to nurture, yet simultaneously undermined by stereotypes that paint us as angry, too independent, right? You know, you too independent, y'all strong and independent. We're gonna get to the ground floor of that because we got to also be able to counter other people's ignorance. Now, I'm not saying ignorance is going to go away. I don't think like that. But I know some of us just need some healing. Some of us just need validation that it's something else going on. It ain't just me, right? And I haven't seen too much of that. I haven't seen that go around. So I just, I'm here to help contribute so that we can move forward and progress in the US as Black women. The CDC's 2019 Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey reported that more than 40%, ladies, so I just gave you the numbers, do the math. That's a lot of Black women. Ignoring this data erases the lived reality of millions. And yet, despite systemic neglect, Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in America, according to American Express's 2019 report. This proves the paradox. While enduring disproportionate trauma, Black women are still leading. So, this is what I'm saying. You got to understand the dynamic. For someone to call you independent, you're too independent. Black women are always mean to me at work. Some of us are, or talking about the leadership of Black women compared to other leaders, as if Black women haven't been experiencing microaggressions or passive aggressiveness at their job, right? From other people. And there's the Black women who are in leadership. There are some tough leaders out there, ladies. Sometimes you got to recognize, does this leader actually care about me? When I played sports, growing up, that was a thing. If your coach is not yelling at you, and I'm not saying to be like calling you names and stuff like that's uncalled for. That means that's something else, right? But if they're yelling at you, constructive criticism is so important, and we have to start looking at it like that because sometimes some people just they want you to do better, and so they're going to give it to you because you that star player, you one of the star players on their team, and they're counting on you. You didn't get hired for nothing. People can call DEI what they want, but you went out and you qualified, right? You didn't just walk into that job. That would be nonsense. Why would a company waste money doing something like that in the first place? This is what I'm saying. You got to use critical thinking and take out the emotion. And I'm telling you, you're going to be, I don't want you to think like me, but I want you to understand how I understand things I'm not going to let people play around when it comes to the real. So I want you ladies to understand we need to have this conversation amongst your daughters, amongst your sisters, your aunts, your mothers, your grandmothers. If your great grandmama's still here, her too. This needs to be a conversation among us. We cannot align with what our counterparts are doing anymore. That just has to go because nothing has shown us that we can truly rely on our counterparts, right? I don't care where they're coming from. I don't care what they're doing. Some of them trying to change their lives. You got to still be real. You got to still be real because they ain't never going to be the counterparts we need if we don't get into the issues that are affecting us, Black women. Now, I'm going to put this out here again. This is for anybody who wants to, view this presentation because some of the data that I'm going to put in here is going to be more so affected for women in general, but it is to continue to point out the issues in Black women. If because we can't be telling people every piece of data is racist now. We got to get those type of people, those type of women that are talking like that because they're aligning with the wrong intelligence in our community. We got to tell them to move on. If not, go get a job in statistics, go become a scientist so you can pull data that's unbiased. Will you pull unbiased data? Will you lie? Or are we going to use it and really talk about our issues? You not reporting stuff, we can never fix it. That's how companies become successful. That's how your business is going to become successful. What is going wrong in my business that I may be losing money in? Do I need to better the customer service in my job? I mean, in my business. Do I need to look at the finances a little better? Do I need to upgrade the furniture or whatever in my business? Do I need to create a new menu? Whatever it is, right? These things are important in order for a business to scale. So it's still important in your life in order for you to position yourself for better. Now, a lot of this stuff, this is going to be a deep conversation because some of this stuff here, um, again, may have not came out. Some people are going to take this information and they're going to chop it up and make no sense of it. They're just going to be talking to talk. So you got to get away from those gossip bloggers, those people who are just looking for the next thing to get you guys on. This is important for us black women. Very important for our children and especially for us. Okay? Now, let's go to scapegoating and deflection. Scapegoating is a tactic of escape. When black women say they've been abused, the retort is, you picked the wrong man. And we can't lie. You can go on the internet right now, if you're just an observer, if you have an observant mindset, you can just go through the comments. I talk about profiles a lot, FBI profiling and all that, because I'm into a lot of that stuff. Again, my brain is just analytical. Like, so I'm like, I don't have to lie because my brain, it wants to go find the stuff and I can see to the truth, but not somebody's truth that they're trying to just, conjure up. Not people trying to ask questions to that really don't align with what's really, out here. Like, your brain should just not allow that stuff, right? But we can go all throughout the internet, and we're gonna get in more to that, of people talking about you chose wrong, you picked the wrong man, or when you bring up the issue of your community, what about white men? Where's the black excellence at, huh? Y'all are too strong and independent and don't need no man. Why are we allowing someone to say stuff like that? And they want to also claim reparations or what slavery did or what they've done to our counterparts or crime and police arrests. Why are we even allowing certain people who are ignorant to say these things? And where are the people who are supposed to be protectors, providers, stand up people, integrity? Where are they at? Shutting it down. I'm seeing just a few channels, excuse me, trying to talk now, but to me, those channels are too new. Some of them are too new. Some of the content is too fresh. See, if you're observant of your community, you're gonna come with that fire. You don't let nobody feel like they didn't got a one up on you, black woman, and you're accepting it. You're waiting for someone to just do better, right? Doing better. When you look at parole boards, and there's some channels you can watch. I think one guy I came across, he has a good parole board channel. These people need to suffer the consequences. See, people tell you you need to be held accountable, and it's like, what legally do I need to be held accountable for? You got to ask these questions. If it's not something I did that crossed the legal line, hurt somebody, and it was just words because I didn't pick you or say, hey, I want to go with you or be your girlfriend or whatever. What does that even align with? Because when the law comes, they still going to arrest the person who was abusing in the house. That's what the greater society says. I am here to let black women know we have to think in the greater society as well, outside of our community. Okay? But here's some data. Pew Research found in 2017 that 88% of black women marry black men. That means the overwhelming majority of intimate relationships, and therefore most abuse, comes from inside the community. So, black women, why would you lie and hide and deflect from what is triggering the community to be in the position it is. We cannot progress economically because we're not being real. We're not standing 10 toes down. Y'all take anything, any scrutiny, any constructive criticism against our counterparts as we're bashing. How are you going to move forward if that's the case? If the Muppet Man, if the puppet master is always being the one controlling everybody's moves, how do we scream black excellence? How do we scream, oh, we're so good and we're so, how do we do that? Because a lot of us are still banking on the smartest people, the most intelligent people making moves. That's really what it is, right? Deflection is not accountability. It is denial. And when denial becomes culture, trauma becomes generational. And we're going to get into this, ladies. We're going to get into this because the truth is our counterparts are the perpetrators of most abuse, right? But this is not just going to talk about our counterparts, though. We're going to look into mothers because, again, this is not to focus on our counterparts. This is to focus on Black women and where we're at and why we are at where we are at. But this is just to let you know we have people that are very abusive in our community. I'm not going to sit here and put a single mom just because people was being called deadbeats for the longest. All they did was try to reverse it and say, oh, it's because of single moms. How do you depend on men like that? Being an independent woman and all, how do you depend on men like that? How do you depend on a community like that? Hmm? I understand, but I don't understand. With your thought process, could have just allow it and let people scapegoat themselves because they don't want to deal with it. If you're talking about people to be the leaders, which I don't think, I think both Black women and Black men, the ones who are who are understanding of the situation, but I think Black women are great leaders. We've been great leaders before, but we allow certain Black women to overcrowd the leadership that is truly amongst us, the intelligence, the woman who can rap a Cardi B song, I guess, but still be professional and be about her business. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's go to the next one. The silence is deafening. Why do Black women stay silent? Is there a fear that we have going on? Now, if people are being aggressive towards us, towards you, because you're talking about something that they want to blame a puppet master for their choice, because they don't want to go to the doctor. And again, when we talk about psychologists and getting therapy, we have our boomer who came from a different time. So I have to understand why they think like that. I've read books and I understand why healthcare, way before what we're dealing with now, but healthcare, how it was damning hell for Black women. I know about that information, but we allowed for our internal, community to be just as violent and deranged as the people that we were trying to go to hospitals to get care or whatever. We allowed that to happen. We allowed the street culture to reach the curb and tell the people on the curb who are way more disciplined, who should have way better emotional control, emotional intelligence, who should be smarter. See, people on the streets think that people on the curb ain't that smart. They don't have street smarts. But have you even listened to how these people talk? Have you even listened to the logic that comes from these people's mouths? Have you? Have you even just sat there and said, this makes no damn sense? How dare they? Street culture has no logic. It has no true rules. It just has no logic. It's just people wanting to bully people because they gave up on themselves. But you, black women, you don't give up on yourself. You kept going. We kept going, right? The Department of Justice has reported that for every black woman who reports rape, as many as 15 remain silent. And we're not talking about grown ass women all the time reporting it, right? These can be little girls, teenagers, preteens, kids, children. Think about that. One voice and 15 silence. And then they want to say, oh, well, women are out here lying on us. There is not a lot of women that lie. There was even a documentary. It wasn't, black women in there, but usually when you see stuff happening with white women or other women in our country specifically, black women, you gotta observe that. You gotta observe that. You can't be so hateful and not liking all white women just because we deal with certain, white women who just want to be racist and haters all their life. We can't care about them. Like, we gotta keep that head up. Like, I don't be worried about them. I'm just as prideful about mine. Okay? But why? Why does that happen? You gotta observe. You gotta sit back and say, why is there so many black women silent in our community? Why are we allowing terror to tear through our community? Police are just one facet of this terror, this untrustworthy relationship that we have. Now, it's on the police departments, the fire departments, the healthcare system, the ambulance. It's for them to control their employees, right? It's for them. But when it comes to us internally, it's for us to control ourselves and the people in our communities. And I'm not talking about the control, telling someone what to do all the time. I'm saying control the appearance, the culture. We have to control these things. Fear of betraying the community has to stop. You are not betraying. You're betraying the community more. You're betraying your kids and your community more because you won't, quote unquote, snitch. We're gonna stop talking using the word snitching. We're gonna talk about getting on that curb and reporting it. There's been black women doing what they were supposed to do, getting out of those relationships, trying to leave, getting reports. And what you see in some of them comments, what you see, people still attacking that black woman who said, I'm making the choice today to choose myself and my child. So we have to realize there's an issue. Why would our community even say that? Why would they even, you know, be okay with attacking a black woman? Hmm? Fear of sending a black man to a white man's prison. Why do we care that a criminal, an abuser of women and children and other men, why would we give a damn about what they about to experience? You cannot be a Christian. You cannot be out here and not realizing your God hates these type of people. He didn't say, oh, I'm not going to hate my own. Your God said he hates a certain type of people. And these are people. Remove the color, especially if you women are into crime shows. You got to remove that color. If it was a white man, you would want him to go to jail, right? It has to be the same. A criminal has no gender and it has no color. Evil doesn't have any association to anything specific. We can call white people out as until the night, till there's no moon no more, and it's just pitch black in this motherfucker. We can do that all we want, but it still will not take away from the internal violence and culture that we portray, that we have. You can't sweep it under the rug. You can't. You just can't. Because the victims are your young ladies, are your young girls, your daughters who are out here angry. No help for them. Nobody hugged them. Nobody took them in. Shut them up when they 5 and 10 or whatever years old. Shut up your little. How does your if you were a parent who was keeping a child away from sexual content, music that has sexual content, if you were keeping your child away from that, right? There is no way your child would know anything truly sexual unless you were teaching them what to look out for when somebody touches you, when somebody does this to you. Don't go, if you're teaching your child these things, no way a child comes out of nowhere and says that her uncle or her dad or her brother or her cousin, male cousin, did something heinous to her. That makes no sense. And this is why we can't allow a certain subset of us be the loudest ones and they're just purely ignorant. Purely ignorant. Because they have a fear of sending black men to a white man's prison, sending their mamas to a prison, sending their aunts to a prison. Fear of retaliation. Is that saying we got a gang issue going on? Are young men involved in gangs? Or even if they're not in gangs, why are we having a fear of retaliation? Where are the people who are supposed to be like we protect ours? I'm real about mine. I protect mine and my family. You know, stuff like that, but you really don't. Y'all be ready to fight another black person, another black people over your family, but you ain't ready to fight. There's only some of us that's truly ready to fight when it comes to shameful stuff that young black kids experience with sexual abuse or seeing sexual violence or just violence in their community. We should not fear. And I know you're not a Christian because your God says, you have it, who should I fear? With God on your side, who shall you fear? You got to be ready for death. Death can't be something you're scared of anymore, right? Especially when you're standing 10 toes down on something. Death death is only going to be waiting and be like, man, I really wanted you to stay alive. But unfortunately, right? Shame. Why are young black girls and black women who experience this being shamed and told you're choosing the wrong man? Why are they pressuring you to be strong? Again, I'm not talking about any other community. I don't want to talk about any other community. This is our community. So bringing up everybody else is going to be irrelevant. You can't erase away what we're allowing to happen in our community and still want to claim black excellence. To me, it's just illogical. It's prideful with no substance behind it. Substance, excuse me. But silence never protected victims. It only protected predators. And the cost of that silence echoes across generations. Again, one person, one black woman reports something, 15 are silenced. That has to change, ladies. One young black girl reports something, she's told to be quiet. They don't remove that uncle. They don't remove that daddy. Because fathers just have to be in the home, huh? You agreed with that. Why? Why? Why are you aligning with people like that? You're never going to see good in your life because you align with the bad all the time. Now, this is going to hurt some people's feelings. We got to identify the perpetrators. We got to identify them. So let's be clear, abuse overwhelmingly comes from the closest: husbands, boyfriends, fathers, uncles, cousins, stepfathers, even mothers who sometimes protect abusers rather than their daughters, right? This is what's happening. So, this whole single mama campaign that our counterparts went on, as if to say young black women or black women didn't grow up in those same single parent homes, it has to be the most ridiculous stuff you've ever heard. It has to be because they had nothing to back it up. They just said, "Oh, you got grown men 35 plus talking still about they single mama." Like that's on you, player. You ain't never grown up, huh? You ain't never grew up. You ain't never got no help. A report from the National Institute of Justice found that as many as 60% of black girls experience sexual abuse before age 18. 6 out of 10. That's high. That's over 6 out of 10. This is not an anomaly. That is a crisis. And when families silence girls to protect men, that silence becomes betrayal. So if your daughter is telling you she's been raped, she's been touched, you being silent and you trying to cover up for the abuser because they just so happen to be black makes no damn sense. You are just as evil. You should be shamed. I can go harder on this, but I'm trying to be as nice as possible with this presentation. But that's a crisis. This is what a crisis is, ladies. This is not no white people do it too. This is saying internally we got an issue, whether it's family, intimate partners, abusive mothers, institutional perpetrators. Talking about young black girls are grown between the ages of 5 and 14, letting black women on the internet already identify a little girl and say she acting grown. She doing this, she doing that. But y'all ain't never stepped up for the 60% of black girls that actually experience sexual violence. I don't see y'all talking for them. Don't be picking choosing battles. Pick the battle and go ahead through it. Follow through. If you're gonna stand 10 toes on it, stand 10 toes for 60% of black girls that are under the age of 18. Stop telling your daughters it's okay for them to date. This is not 1910, 1960s, 1950s. This is not that era anymore. We seem to be allowing that to continue to happen. You got 38-year-old men getting 17-year-old girls pregnant. You got men who are supposed to be teachers and leaders having conversations with young girls through text messages. There's a mental health issue that you're allowing to roam around the community. And then when we see this, and again, I'm going to get deep into it, but when you see the 60% of black girls having anger issues, grow up to have anger issues because nobody fucking cared enough. They're telling you that you're too independent and strong, but yet they couldn't come and hug you to let you be vulnerable enough, to let you cry it out. They couldn't do that though, right? Your mother couldn't believe you enough, couldn't stand 10 toes to protect you. The previous presentation was about how women, I try to focus on black women, but women, how we are pretty much unaligned with nature when we look at the other female species, right? You see how those mothers are more of the protectors, the leaders, the hunters, right? So it's an issue when mothers aren't doing that for their daughters or just their children in general. But again, this is specific to the black women and black girls. So when you're not doing this for your daughter and you're allowing the abuse, or you're just being abusive because I don't know, maybe you're jealous of your own daughter, which is a mental, like you're mentally ill. You need to go to somebody's hospital, ma'am. Never in anybody's universe should a grown woman be competing with her underage daughter for the man in her home. This is why you cannot allow our counterparts to promote campaigns when they are not intellectually honest, when they are not showing their intelligence enough, when they're not moving like that, when you don't see the numbers, you don't see the economy getting better here. No way the 350,000 women who left their jobs in the government get promoted as if all of these black women just lost our jobs. Like, oh, I knew it was coming. I'm telling you, I'm very observant. I'm very detailed. And I knew it was coming that our counterparts would take that information because they aren't in those fields. They're not even working in those fields as a high rate as black women, right? And they took it and they campaigned against it. If we're doing the math, ladies, black women have been working forever. They said government jobs. So if I gave you numbers earlier, if it's 30 million black women, let's say let's say 15, 20 million are working out of that, and 350,000 left or got let go of their jobs. Do the math. Is that a high percentage of black women out of 20 million that are working? Do not demean your education. When you demean your education, you're not ready to stand 10 toes against racist people and their lies. You won't, you know what I'm saying? You're not ready to cut through those lies. You'll just be emotional. And sometimes when I be trying to battle, I don't want to say battle, but I am I'm not going to get too far into how I think or stuff like that. But I'll just say, when it comes to that, you have to be ready, and you can't be bringing up. We don't even have to bring up slavery. We can bring up the last 30 years if we wanted to, the last 50 years if we wanted to. You don't have to use slavery as a way to talk about white people who happen to be racist, the ones who are. And then you call white people who may have not even be racist, who are just talking shit, just like you talk shit, and you're not even ready to stand 10 toes on that. The behavior is disgusting. Like, oh my God, it's so annoying and frustrating at times. So I'm like, damn, who's gonna stand up? A Jasmine Crockett, you see how she tries to bring as much proof and evidence when she's talking about something. And that's why she's so confident in what she's saying. That's why she's so confident to call people in the administration what they are, what she feels she wants to call them, right? That is a whole nother level of confidence that if you ladies just took it in and understand, I'm telling you, you will be way more stronger than what you believe you are. You ain't got to be like, I said what I said. You just say it, and you just know, man, I'm standing in it because it's just what it is. It's the truth. I ain't got to lie. Like, you really don't even have to lie to some people. The way you come off is just, this is a facts, ain't no lies, right? So it's a crisis. And when families silence girls that are under 18 to protect men, that silence becomes betrayal. This is why your daughters don't like some of y'all, because you didn't like your daughter enough. You align with a world that is okay with killing off women or little girls and letting men, I don't know, believe they have some type of legacy. Straight betrayal. We betray each other at a young age. Betrayal. Betrayal. You can't be a Christian and understand the story about Judas, but you can't understand the betrayal that happens literally under your roof. literally in your community. Some of these things ain't about people always picking on black people, right? It's not about all of that. It's about letting us realize, okay, what is going on and how can we fix it? How can we heal so we can move better? How can we get out of this poverty situation? How do we get our children to know that they got to go out into this world and compete and not be coddled? They need to go and compete, because if you don't compete, those let's say those 350,000 women who got degrees and good work, we didn't have any corporate institutions that they can go to that maybe still have contracts with the government. We ain't got none of that. We ain't got a plenty of that, huh? And why you think that? Because it's too many people covering for abusers who need to deal with the consequences of their actions. They shouldn't get off. Ain't no God told you to let them go. Ain't no Christ told you to let them go. No angel came down and told you stop saying that God sent you a message. You're not spiritual like that. You're not on that level. I don't let y'all lie to me like that. I don't let y'all talk y'all religion to me like that, because I like to stand on truth. I like to be like the Christ, who'd be like, I'm here on a mission, but if I need to, I can send for these angels to come down and start. We can have this battle. We can catch that head up, but I'm on a mission. I'm sent for a mission to complete. This is why I'm glad black women left the church, because we have to realize, religion ain't gonna save us. It ain't gonna save us. Now let's look at the psychological aftermath, because we don't look into why black women are the way we are. Some of us are, right? Abuse is not a moment, it's a lifetime wound. Psychological fallout includes PTSD, nightmares, flashbacks, hypervigilance, okay, depression and anxiety. The National Institute of Health reports black women are 50% more likely to suffer serious psychological distress than white women. It's the truth. It's the truth. A lot of black women are out here depressed. Your self esteem has been getting attacked by our own people. You ready to fight white people, but you ain't ready to clap back at the people trying to attack your self esteem, your confidence, leaving them in the dust, leaving them behind you, making the statement that I am not going to even be talking to you no more. You mentally ill. You need to go to somebody's hospital. You need to check in. So this is true. Getting in a relationship ain't going to take that away. Going to church ain't taking that away. Praying about it ain't taking it away. Right? Anger, often misread as aggression and weaponized as the angry black women stereotype. So those 60% of black girls, we know most of them didn't get no help. Most of them wasn't told to go to therapy. Most of them still didn't have nobody around them to be vulnerable. Some of them got kicked out of the house. Some of them had babies pretty young. So you got those same young girls that grow up to be grown women, angry, and they just got to deal with it. Hmm? You got counterparts wanting you to be soft and feminine, but don't want you to deal with why you're angry. They don't want they're so angry at black women. They want to be tougher. But they not the daddies that the black women grew up with. They're not those same fathers who loved you and they wanted you to learn things so you can take care of yourself. So if they promoting your daughter, if they put in more masculinity into your daughter, it's their fault, right? Because they don't want to understand this stuff. They can't intelligently understand this stuff. I'm being real. I'm not being divisive. I'm being real. These emotions are not evidence of weakness. They are evidence of harm. Now, again, this is talking about our issues, black women. You can't run a successful business if you're angry all the time. If you don't take that $100 and go see a therapist every week. Sometimes it's not about getting medication, but some of you need some anxiety medication, depression medication, so your mood can be better. Your anger, letting people be microaggressive, passive aggressive to you, and immediately calling you angry because you got an opinion, because you're standing up for yourself. That's what I'm saying. If you get the education and the information, you can go out here and stand 10 toes down and not let a person just talk and make up stuff and put it on you. You got to be looking at, I look at people crazy. I'm like, man, this crazy motherfucker really just made up some stuff. And the other people around are really going with it because they're haters too, or they got issues too, or they rather they like mess and gossip. People who just like intentionally like mess, you got to be careful with those type of people, because I think, at a point you got to say some of them are just mentally ill. I like the mess, political mess, because at least it challenges your brain. At least it makes you go read up on some information, right? But gossip, who we gossip about? Celebrities all the time? People in our community that may be doing better than us, and so we have an issue with them. That's what's going on. Black women, that's what's going on. You mad at the next black woman? You upset? You think she wants your man because other black women act like that? But have you ever looked into this stuff and said, well, you know what? Forget the man and forget her. I'm removing myself from this. I'm getting away from this. Sometimes you got to get away. And again, I spoke in a few videos ago about career paths that you can take, because when you get into these career paths, your mind is so focused on your craft, your work. You have no time for gossip, and people will try to seep you back in, but you don't have time. You making 100K, 150K, 200K, 300K. Those type of mindsets, that type of money does not worry about people who still complaining about a wage job that they can just take the 1 to 2 hours a day to focus so they can move up and reposition themselves and get out of that community. We have to get out of that community. We have to get away, because this is going on and we're not truly fixing it. Some of us are, it's happening, right? But sometimes when I come across stuff, I'm like, man, they still own it. No, say it's done and shut that door. It's done. Shut the door. Now, let's go to the next one. The angry black woman trap. So let's dive into this a little bit more. Princeton University research in 2016 found that black women's neutral facial expressions are disproportionately coded as angry compared to white women. So, ladies, you can't have a bitch face. You can't be thinking about something. You can't be focused on anything without somebody representing what's going on with you. Somebody just making up things in their mind. And that's why I'm like, it's mental illness town with those type of people, in my opinion. But when people are literally taking your facial expressions and saying you're angry, to me, that screams mental illness with them. They need to check into somebody's hospital, right? Because how do you just automatically start thinking like that? Well, we are literally seen through a distorted lens. So we know the play that's at hand, knowing the kingdom, know your kingdom or your queendom if you want, but understand the layout, understand what you're dealing with. So going out here to prove a stereotype has to be the most asinine thing you can go out here and do, to go and prove that it's true. You let something bother you so much. But again, some of this stuff is stemming from being a child because nobody stood up for you. So if you got to stand up for yourself, again, if you're being called independent, this is why. Who's coming out to back you up other than other black women? Hmm? So don't let people, talk about you independent and all. If this stuff is going on, right? I'm giving you the data to show why are we like this? Why are we the way we are? And online, the abuse intensifies. Amnesty International's 2018 Troll Patrol study found that black women are 84% more likely to be mentioned in abusive tweets than white women. This isn't coincidence. It's systemic bias weaponized to silence and discredit black women at every turn. Now, who is participating in this? Hmm? Who's participating more than ever? Are those people aligning with black culture, or are they aligning with somebody else's culture who already wrote in medical history or medical journals or books saying how we are in general, making up lies, making up stuff to say that's how you are in general? And now you got other people in your same community contributing to that because they've been labeled stuff, but they need you to be labeled that. They need you to feel that. Your anger. Oh, you're so angry and you're yelling at people. Or, oh, we don't do that because we're angry, but if you're being antagonized, I mean, frustrated, an emotion is going to come out. And this is for anybody. Anybody. An emotion is going to come out, right? If they did a troll study on YouTube, you can find the same thing. Now that AI is here, I had to speak up with some things and say, yo, it's the person behind the tool. It's not AI. Let's not be ignorant. If you were in these fields, black women, you would never be ignorant of what it is. But you let people tell you your education don't matter. So you stop reading, you stop pursuing, because now it has to be about the man lifting him up all the time, but he should have been lifting himself up because that's what you've been doing. Your kids. But this is what's going on. Why are people attacking you and you know you've dealt with some stuff in your life and they're calling you, they just want to get you upset? Like me, I can get frustrated, I can get upset at times, but I've learned over the years because I didn't want to align with certain black women in our community that are just immediately lash out and angry, but I still understood some of them may be going through stuff. I went through some stuff, but I had to learn how to not let my anger win, because that anger should come out when it's time, and you'll know when it's time, right? But if you were continuing to educate yourself and not demeaning or devaluing your education, it's easy to talk to people who are trying to attack you. It's so easy because I'm telling you, they're not smart enough. They with group think. Ain't nobody in that group thinking smarter than the next person. They don't even, they're scared of each other. So if they're scared of each other, you ain't gotta be. Black women know we ain't that scared. But we letting ourselves die in the streets, die amongst our family, die amongst our peers, die among on the jobs, and we're letting this affect us. That's why we have to deal with what's internally going on. If it's sexual abuse, if it's just abuse, you physical abuse, if you experience verbal abuse, being called a little bitch, a hoe, a slut, fast, before you at 5 years old, being called all that stuff. Military knows what it is. People in these fields that are in law enforcement and all that, we know what it is. Psychologists know what it is. Why are we letting people who ain't even in those fields make us feel any type of way? You shouldn't even, like, you have nothing. They have nothing. And I wish more black women understood things like me to know, like, what? Mental illness is real. Maybe we need to get into opening up hospitals, invest in opening up mental hospitals, and so people can just, be put in them motherfuckers, and then politically vote so that these 5150s could be put. And that's how I see it, because I have went and did the work to not allow people to make me angry. But I also went to therapy to talk about the things from my childhood, right? So I can put those things behind me, process those things, be amongst somebody who's outside my community possibly, who can understand. Because unfortunately, some of us, we get into these fields and we still allow ourselves to be biased. There's no point in you becoming a psychologist as a black woman if you're going to be talking to another black woman with bias. That's your time to be real about your work. Be real about your work, and not about trying to continue to sweep under the rug what's really harming black women. That means you didn't even you went to that field to get something because you needed some money, but you ain't even taking it serious. I can't stand a professional black woman going into these fields and not taking your shit seriously enough. And then you come back and let people demean and devalue that because they're mad that you had the discipline to go out and get your degree, or whatever you obtain. You had the discipline. That's a reward in itself. So people weaponizing that, wanting to continue to trap you into, saying black women did this, black women, like that was going on. I was like, wow. And I'm like, I'm yet to hear a black woman just take it down. Y'all up here getting on podcasts with guys who really have not shown any progress in themselves but to go to the gym. They only went to the gym, ladies. That's literally all they did. And then they said, well, that's enough for me to go out and not only get more black women, but go with other women and then attack black women. Who are they aligning with? And some of these people aren't telling their partners their true mentality, and then some are, and that's why their partners act the way they act towards you. So why would we allow that? Why would we forgive someone like that? But you can't forgive a Candace Owens. You guys will forgive an abuser before you forgive someone who may just had a difference of opinion of you, but they have not shown any type of abuse compared to the people who actually did it. It has to change, black women. That mentality has to change. Now let's get on the toxic mother-daughter dynamics. Because when black women, I remember some black women, we were talking about this. We were definitely trying to talk about this. But we didn't go around saying, oh, well, we're going to blame because I grew up with a single mama. No, we wanted to get to the root. We wanted to discuss our discourse about, uh, our mothers and how toxic they've been, how they allowed abusers in that house amongst our family to just continue to operate because you don't want some black guy going to jail when there's plenty of other black guys who don't even do that stuff. But then you got to think about, did they step up? Or did they just, oh, I'm going to go talk to them? Did they call the cops and say, no, for sure they did this? Did they come over there like an angry tiger, a lion, whatever they want to call themselves? Did they come over there ready for that family member? Did they say blood don't matter today because you obviously didn't give a fuck about the blood that you violated, right? You got to literally sit and ask yourself, ladies. And this is to get a deep dive in how, again, this anger, this projection that we have, that we can deal with, can stem from our mothers. Some of the deepest betrayals happen within families, ladies. The deepest betrayal. And I mean, this is worse than some damn uh, Jesus and Judas story. This is way worse. Way worse. In my opinion, Or if you want to compare it, it's the same thing happening. Betraying your daughter to allow people to come in and just wreak havoc, excuse me. You just allowed it to happen. And then she says, I'm gonna tell my mama. And mama is so desperate. Mama is mentally ill herself, an abuser herself, or was abused herself, so she don't care. Mama couldn't spend the 1 to 2 hours, couldn't find a time when y'all went to sleep. Because sometimes mamas, hey, some of y'all had children pretty young and had to figure out. That's why I never promoted my siblings or myself. I never looked at myself as having kids early because I wanted to enjoy my life. I'm so grateful I understood just popping out somebody babies was not it. We're not living in those times. Again, we as humans, black women, this is why you got to get away from a think tank that only wants to associate with everything black. And if you do want to associate with that, you got to not put it to a level where it's negative all the time. The no snitching and don't tell them, fam. Like, that's the most negative aspects you should want to align with. Putting mothers in jail for this type of shit should be important. The Journal of Child Sexual Abuse in 2019 found that daughters of non-protective mothers face higher risk of PTSD, depression, and self-destructive behaviors. So if your mama can't step in, if your mama don't give a damn, this is what you're experiencing today. Because again, and I know you all didn't go to no therapy. You all didn't get no help for that. No one talked to you to tell you it was never your fault. It ain't no little girl's fault. Some grown ass man hitting her up, wanting to have sex with her. It ain't never their fault. This is a grown ass person, a person whose logic and critical thinking should click in, a person who should never be sexually attracted. So how can that be put on a child? That is the most mentally ill shit I've ever heard out of some woman's mouth. Like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Like, you gotta say it's a problem with that person. It's a problem with that mama agreeing with that, talking about her daughter's too fast and this. That's a problem. Ma'am, are you okay? In the head up in there. Is your head okay? Do you need to go talk to somebody yourself? Maternal envy is real. Black women, we know it's real. Some of you experienced that from your mothers. When your mother's talking about, I could have did this, or I wish I did that, or wanting to tear you down, or say, when they bringing up stupid shit from when you was a child and you're grown as hell, like, ma'am, go get checked, because I don't want to hear your ignorant ass talking. You got to be real. It comes from the down line of our mothers. Now, if we got some hereditary stuff, again, those are things that you can go out and get some therapy for. Now, I have found that, sometimes when Black women do find an issue with their child, there are times where other Black people would tell you, don't go to the hospital, don't do this and don't do that. But that means we don't have enough people in our community that are pursuing these fields. If you don't have enough, then of course you're going to deal with these issues. I know Black women who just, they appear to be decent women, but unfortunately their kids have a mental illness issue and she can't control it anymore. She doesn't have the bandwidth to control it. She doesn't have the professional mindset to control it, in a professional way, right? She's not the psychologist. She's just a mother. She can only do what a mother probably would know to do or was taught to do from her mother. Some of y'all children are bipolar, but if they're being abused in the home, that shit is going to show up in their adult years because they never got help for it. It's not going to be an excuse either, ladies. It's not going to be an excuse either. Because you have the resources and tools, especially here in America. You have enough to go out and get yourself together. That's why I'm like getting to better fields of business, higher revenues of business, so that we can invest in more programs that can help our young black girls who are experiencing abuse, so they ain't got to go out here feeling alone, having babies by men, getting coerced from older men, putting stuff in their heads that's just not valid or true. Some mothers wounded themselves, compete with daughters for male attention, or deny their abuse entirely. Now, some of our mothers are still from the Generation X or Boomer generation who experienced a different time, a different era. Now, for me, sometimes I will excuse certain things because of their era, right? It was totally different than what we experience today in 2025 or even the past 10, 20 years, because the world has been changing the whole entire time. If your head has been up, if you've been listening or observing, we have been changing. That's what I'm saying. You got to leave certain mindsets and stuff alone and start getting into better fields of professionalism, entrepreneurship, investing, so you can put your head above water and get into the American economy or the greater society. We've done that before. Even when we had to do it ourselves, we still went out and became doctors, entrepreneurs. We did all of that. So denying that is not true or valid. But we got to be real that our mothers do contribute to some of the issues. This is not to excuse the fathers that were there or were not there. This presentation is to focus solely on Black women and Black girls and our issues and what these issues stem from. So the mother daughter dynamic is definitely something that your issues stem from. The film Precious was not an exaggeration. It's not. Ask some of your older aunties or uncles. Well, they may not tell the truth, but ask some of them. They've dealt with some stuff in their life. And I'm talking about your Gen X and your boomer moms and grandmas and great grandmas if she's still living. Go and talk to them. Go and have private conversations and let them spill it out. Let them tell you. Precious ain't no fictional freaking drama. It's a reflection. Intergenerational silence and jealousy magnify trauma. When you look at that in the roles, just the dynamic between Precious and her mother was angry all the time. She probably experienced abuse herself, and she come from a different era when nobody told on it because nobody stepped up to help. But they was sure ready for them white people to come through. We cannot allow white supremacy to be so prominent and dominant that we forget about what's going on internally. How are you gonna be ready for any war and your soldiers ain't ready? Your soldiers ain't ready. Remember the civil rights era, when some black people were teaching black women how to deal with violence when they go into diners or on the bus. When you're looking at that era, that's how they prepared when they were like, we're going to be dealing with people, who are going to attack us. And black people went through that. We went through that. So, when I do hear other, so I am in agreement when other immigrants come here and, want to talk about no reparations or anything like that. Like, they have no clue about this country. They need to get a big exam, because black people went through a lot of that stuff for the civil rights to even be something that was enact. Spit on, abused, bullied, cursed at, shit thrown on them, all kind of stuff. Told they can't drink from certain faucets, they can't use certain bathrooms, or all of that. No other immigrants was really here experiencing that. None of them. Now, Native Americans, and I'm talking about the Native American Indians or yeah, I would say Native American Indians and tribes that was here, they experienced some shit. They really did. But when you look through history, when we're talking about laws really changing, it was a mostly a black and white thing in this thing. It was really truly blacks and whites. But when you look at the internal issues, because it was still toxic mothers from those errors. Now, again, the toxic mother could have been, abused, sexually abused, raped by other races of men at that time. But I damn sure know that they were dealing with men in their own community doing this stuff, and nobody got ready to go shoot them, go serve them up a two piece. So realizing toxic mothers do not align with the single mother tropes, ideas, or anything. Focus on the dynamic. What's going on with my mama? Encourage your mama to get some help, and if she can't, you gotta cut your conversations short. You got to, because they don't realize they need help. And if you're working hard and got your money up and all that, you can pay. You can spend that little $100 or whatever it costs. Some jobs or some states are now making sure that mental health or therapy is a part of your benefits package. So if you're in those type of states and you're working, you can get that information, and then help to pay for your mother to get that help, that therapy, because she needs it, or she's never going to heal. She's going to be out here still doing the same thing. Okay. Now, science confirms what we feel. Trauma is inherited. Epigenetics shows stress and trauma can alter gene expression, passing heightened stress responses to children. So, this is the science, people. These are people who are focusing on this specific intergenerational trauma transmission to see does it stem down through DNA, and they found out it does. Research in the Journal of Traumatic Stress shows that children of survivors are 2 to 3 times more likely to be victimized themselves. This is why breaking cycles isn't optional. It's survival. It's survival. This is why not having kids early because a nigga looks good, or oh, he's so fine. Like, girl, is he smart up in the top though? What is he doing to invest in a business that's black? What does he do for work? What does he think? Did he follow any of these other podcasters and agree with what they said when it was nothing back behind them, or did it align with white supremacist talking points, with their ideas of what we are, what they want us to be? Did it do that? Did he do that? Is he like that? Does he just work out? He's in the gym all day, but he ain't got no other craft. Why is the gym more important than working on his craft? Does he feel he needs to you need to be in a certain role in the house, as if you ain't been working all your life? Let's be real. Intergenerational trauma transmission is real, people. So if your mama is acting a certain way, she's abusing you or allows sexual or physical violence against you in your home, then you're going to definitely be dealing with it. So this is why you're out here angry sometimes. You're ready to blow up. You ready to fight a bitch, right? You ready, but you're not challenging what's really going on, what's really good. And I know some of you don't even want to be like that, right? You get triggered a lot. You don't want to be like that. And I'm telling you, this is the information here to tell you you don't have to be like that. You got to recognize what's going on, where is it stemming from, where it's possible it's stemming from, and get to the root of it for yourself and your sake. And if you have children, it's for their sake. Your children really want you to do better. They're the biggest cheerleaders. And when you talk about family, your children are going to be the biggest cheerleaders for you. They depend on you doing better. They depend on you until they get older, right? Now let's talk about this crazy. Crazy one, that all of a sudden it became an attack on you from people, your counterparts who aren't doing the work. Now it's an attack that you too independent and you too strong. Don't even know what the heck they're saying. Just saying it because they're aligned with other people who feel that who gave up on themselves already. The stereotype of the two independent black women is weaponized constantly. It is a weaponization against you, just the same as your supposed anger is weaponized against you. Recognize that, black women. You got to understand what the hell is wrong with that. What is wrong with that? But let's tell the truth. From slavery through Jim Crow through mass incarceration, black women had to lead. They had to. In this country, again, we have historical documentation evidence that black women was already leaders. Even still today, you can go into African countries and you'll see black women who were presidents, top executive leaders, whether it's on the level of gangs or whatever is over there, you would see that. So it's not new to us to be a leader or to act in an independent way, but being independent in a dependent relationship, if that's what you want to be in, that's fine. But if something happens, you have to become independent. If the fathers of your children made the choice to leave and not fight for the children because whatever made them feel you weren't just the right woman, they should have never pulled their penis out in the first place, right? They should have never went through with impregnating you. They should know how a baby is even made. They are attacking your education, you going out here working, and because 350,000 women in the government sector got laid off or left, that's a joke. But you were working, so the joke is really on them because it proves black women were working. Hmm? So you just let that run, huh? You just let that continue to attack, huh? If you know the history of how we got here, you would see why you had to leave. And there is still not a problem with that. I used to say if, and I was young, I used to really say if a man cannot make me feel like I could be easy, then I don't want him. I don't care about how good that man look. I'd have some nice looking men, some nice strong looking men, I was attracted to or dated. But when I find out they not thinking in a way that I like, I think about my potential kids. Like I don't want my kids having to be dumb on one side. I purposely know my kids can be right. I'd rather be the family that has a bunch of doctors and stuff, that model, the doctors, the lawyers. I'd rather be that family. That's what I would want to be around. And they call your survival arrogance now. It's arrogant to be independent. It's arrogant to go out here and be disciplined and go to school, regardless of what's going on in the community, to still have that other side of your brain still go and say, man, because I can't allow myself to be in poverty. They're telling you it's better for you to be in poverty and to be with them and have them in a home than pursue the things that's going to contribute to the greater society, contribute to the wealth gap closing. This is what they're saying. And some of you are like, what? We had a whole rap song, but now it's nah, you too independent and strong. You don't need a man. Well, that's the truth. This entire time, throughout history, this entire time showed us that we didn't. And you still didn't step up. You still not stepping up. You still not investing into us. This is why the venture capital funding is at 1% for black women. Where are you at? Where's your money at? Brookings Institution data shows 74% of black mothers are primary breadwinners. Independence is not rejection of men. Why are our counterparts feeling rejected for something you had to do? That's not a you issue. It's responsibility in a system that often abandons us. Again, when you go back to days that we came out of slavery and went into the Gilded Age and all of that stuff that we went through, Black women were still doing their own thing, even beside those men of that day. So why would Black women dumb, demean, belittle themselves because some ignorant person is telling you you're too independent and too strong? So I'm gonna go to a weaker woman. I'm gonna go to the weakest, but I'm a king, right? I'm gonna go to some weaker women outside my kingdom because this Black woman is showing me up. She's too good. I cannot compete. In their mind, why are they even competing against you in the first place? Doing this puts you in competition with white women, Asian women, Latinas. It puts you in competition in the greater society, in what really matters, economics, what legal system, what really matters, right? But they want to destroy you socially. They want to destroy that as if this stuff ain't happening. They want to be blind to it. That's what they want to do. So this to me does not, it don't hurt me because I have to do that. I can't depend on you. If I can't be easy, then why else would I want to do that? You don't protect me in this home, right? You're not protecting those little girls. You don't have anything that's taking these young men off the streets but sports. Y'all always talking to, you know what I'm saying? Like it's real stuff happening. So you cannot allow even Black women attack each other over that. And as if they just told, they know about slavery all of a sudden, but they don't know about how we got here. And this is why this presentation is here, how we got here. So independence is not a rejection of men. It's responsibility in a system that often abandons us. Okay, ladies? Now, let's get to why independence is demonized. We got to get to the root of this for ourselves. Understand or understanding, why would someone tell me being too independent in their minds, me saying I don't need a man in their minds, because needs and want is two different words. They have two different meanings, right? So does your boss need you on that job? Meaning, if you're so good and you're like, yo, I'm about to leave, does your job, does people in your company, do anybody in your company try to get you to stay there or say, hey, we'll pay you more or don't leave or whatever they're going to try to do so you don't leave? That means they need you, right? So have Black women ever, show that to their counterparts or other Black women that they need them? Now, wanting you, if a job picks you out of, let's say, 100 different interviewees, and they pick you, is it that they need you or they want you? If you have a desire for something, let's say a piece of candy, do you need that candy or do you want to have that piece of candy? So again, we're dealing with people in our community who choose not to take education, take their career seriously, take the economic situation seriously, take crime seriously, take depression, PTSD, the terror. They don't take any of that stuff seriously. So why would they even take you being having to be independent seriously? Why would we allow someone like that or some bodies like that to attack or put a negative connotation on Black women in particular to that who are independent. If a child grows up without their mother and father, ends up in a foster home or in the foster care system, do they have to figure out how to be independent on their own at some point? Do children grow up having to need their parents all the time? Or does a parent, a healthy parent, try to teach their child to be independent, right? If a mother is in the home, does she teach her daughters to be independent? Or is she giving her daughter the skills necessary to survive? Whether that's cooking, knowing how to clean a house. Some mothers like to teach young girls how to take care of a man. Let men know how to cook as well. They know how to clean up. Some fathers teach their daughter to change their tires, maybe show them how to change their oil or whatever the case may be. So you have parents that already are teaching independence to their children out there. Healthy parents, parents who understand the world in a way that they don't want their child dependent upon people if they can attempt to do it themselves, right? So why is independence demonized? Because it threatens patriarchy. And not only patriarchy, it threatens other Black women. It's definitely threatening other women, but it threatens Black women because we have been reconditioned women. We have been reconditioned to go away from the natural order of things that we can see with our eyes through the wild animal kingdom. Again, we're not infanticide that we're any of those type of animals because we have conscious, we are able to create and build, we think differently, our spiritual connections are different, right? All of that is different. But if you are some type of believer or whatever you are, and you're not looking at those things, and you're saying God created this and you created that, but you don't even tap into nature enough, then of course you would go with whatever the an idea of order would look like, which is patriarchy, right? Or the classist system, or even the paperback color test system, right? You wouldn't even fall into those type of ideas that people have given based on their belief systems. Doesn't mean it's true or it's backed up by facts. But again, we learned in the last few slides why a Black woman in particular would be independent based on historical data, historical documentation that can tell you the patterns that a Black woman would go. So the patterns show us that some of us may deal with toxic mothers, some of us will possibly deal with sexual abuse, physical abuse in our homes or with our intimate partners. Some of us will deal with stigmas against us, stereotypes against us, right? The angry trope. Some of us go out and, we just make sure the world knows that we're angry, I guess, right? So these are things that we have to look at as Black women as, hey, why am I so independent? When some Black women get in relationships and there may be a guy, and it doesn't matter the guy, right? I don't want to speak as if Black men are the only ones to marry, but it could be any guy because patriarchy is a blanket for most men, right? But under that, she can be with this guy and still not feel to allow him or let him do certain things where she would have to do it for herself, or she has a certain order in her mind of how she wants things in her house. She maybe want her husband to do certain things around the house, you know, and sometimes that threatens certain guys because they don't have the discipline like she had. So it's hard for her to find some guy to make her feel as if, hey, you know what, you don't have to be strong. I understand the historical data. I understand that you had to be this the entire time. And your mama probably pushed you out to be this as well, and or your dad, right? But I'm here to let you know that me as the man is stepping in to say you can be easy. And that's what someone who is deemed independent would probably want to feel. And I'll say black women in particular, we need to feel easy, meaning black women are having to go and create soft lives for themselves. So that puts another negative connotation or just a negative point onto the counterparts because it's continuing to show the patterns of black women who have to go and do these things. So if our counterparts aren't realizing this, they're not seeing it because whatever is going on in their minds, if you're not seeing that and making the choices to say, well, these women are raised differently. Well, again, ladies, I'm showing you today the information that shows you how our community is internally. And just as focusing on women, how it's internally affecting us as women who are in a unique situation here, right? Now, there's nothing against anyone wanting to go date out. That's what I'm saying. It's not. I'm not. I'm saying that it's specifically black, but if I'm speaking about the community, in general, right? Just the community dynamics in general, we can see why this is happening. So only people who understand that will get. Well, yeah, she has to be independent. Again, if you look at the wild kingdom, not every wild animal that's a female is still with the male. Some of that they just don't stay around. They are literally, I guess you would say, single mamas, right? But they have other qualities, traits, and skills that make up for this male not being there. And again, some of that is just naturally the order of how it is, right? But as humans, certain things that women do would threaten a patriarchy. And again, black women, there is history that shows leadership, independence, politics. None of that is new to us. Here in the U.S., we just have to reshape ourselves or adjust ourselves for this. But again, it's shown that we had to do those things. So someone attacking that, you have to say, what sense is it making? You have to be like, bring a real attack because I can't believe what you're saying as in either fact or it's just purely emotion, but bring me real evidence of why it's bad for me to be independent when I couldn't depend on my mom to step up for me. I couldn't depend on my aunts, my grandma, my great grandma. I couldn't depend on maybe my brother, who's probably older. Maybe I'm not saying a little young guy. Or uncles to step in, or what. I could depend on those people. So now I have to go out into the world automatically knowing that I have to take care of me. So if people or guys don't understand that dynamic, because some of them have to do the same thing, right? But we have to understand that's why you are so independent. This is nothing that you are just saying, oh, I just want to go out here and do my own thing. You made the choice, the decision to say, I have to be more disciplined. And in order for me to eat, to sleep comfortably, to drive to work, to and back, or whatever, to make sure my kids are taken care of, you go out and you do what other species of females have done for a very long time. So why does that threaten, an idea called patriarchy, right? It strips control from men who cannot match women's progress. It breeds resentment among men who are underemployed. It fuels misogyny, where even some women shame others to gain male approval. Here's that mother-daughter dynamic, right? That's what's going on there. You're getting that from your mother that you're now shaming because hey, you was too fast or you're a slut or a bitch or whatever. So if that was going on inside the home with the mother, some women are going out with that same mentality because they never got help. They never seen it a different way, a different perspective. They never got a different perspective other than what their mother showed them. Independence is not dangerous. It is only dangerous to those who profit from dependence. And ladies, we can definitely tell through, um, true stories, crime shows, all of that, where women have tried to let men be the leader or do things, but then it seems like every time he has to take more away because you're threatening his insecurities. We don't want insecure men no more. We want men to grow up. We don't want them insecure anymore. And you have to demand that. And the women that demand that, there's women who are just putting it down. A woman who's independent, maybe told she thinks she's too good for everybody, or maybe they don't like how she looks, so they feel like she shouldn't say anything. But these same people will copy, will emulate, will do everything that the other woman is doing, whether it's good or bad, right? So to me, again, that's a signal of some type of mentally ill issues going on that stem from childhood. And who knows, that woman may be a part of that 60% of black girls or the 40% of black women, right? Experiencing trauma and never got help, police, because you have a trust issue only based on our counterparts' issues and not your own. Not being believed when you're reporting or doing stuff. We have to see it from our perspective, right? Do we want healthier relationships? Why are we running back? Why are we feeling like we have to be shamed? Like, none of this stuff should shame you. It shouldn't. I feel our community doesn't handle this stuff well. We don't handle it. We don't have conversations. We look at other communities and see their conversations and how they're able to process and talk through it. It's because those communities spent the time to figure out, how do I help someone who seems like they're talking irrational. Now, does this mean everyone from those communities are, experiencing positive stuff or whatever? No. But the information here says that Black women are experiencing it more, right? And when some people are pointing these things out, we can't shove it to the side because we have to blanket it with, well, white supremacy. I don't have a puppet master controlling me. Your God doesn't even control you like that. So do not align with people who already scapegoats a lot. And that's what you're doing. You're scapegoating with them when you don't have to. You have the backup. You have everything to prove and understand yourself as a young lady or a woman, and why you're here and why it's damning to the community that you live in, and why you need to remove yourself, separate, go into different fields of work, get you a skill, get you some craft going on there, right? This is what needs to happen. Quit being prideful over things that are but should be beneath you. Honestly, it's a lot of stuff that should be beneath a lot of y'all, but you're so prideful about it, right? Let's go to the next thing: sexual abuse and silence. Let's speak on that a little bit more, right? The NIJ's data that 60% of black girls endure sexual abuse before 18 is not just alarming. Again, it's a crisis, it's a catastrophe. But underreporting makes the true number even higher, meaning that when you're aligning with no snitching and you got a job, you disciplined yourself and went to school, but you're still aligning with a culture, a subset culture in the community, and you're underreporting still. And there's other little girls out there may have experienced something like you. And or you're saying, or you're still believing that every cop, every police station, everyone is just going to be, reckless towards you, right? Again, back in the civil rights era, before it became civil rights, we learned and we can see how they had to strategize amongst each other to let the world see what's going on. And it's time to let the world see that. It's not time to keep covering up, blanking it up, because No one's talking about it enough. I heard an expert from Joy Reid the other day, and she was, her focus was against, people who aligned with the current administration when we're talking about getting things for them, right? And she starts to name all the things for them. But one thing she pointed out, which I kind of was like, girl, we're not doing none of that. And I don't mean we're not doing none of that, not talking about it. We're not doing none of that, meaning she's saying, well, you want black people to talk about hip hop and stuff in our community. Well, we'll deal with that. We'll talk about that amongst our internally. Is she tripping? When is that going to happen? When black women brought up femicide, it was a joke. Other black women didn't even take it seriously because they still felt in their heart, their conditioned mind, that they needed to cover up for abusers in the community. That's what they felt they needed to do. Screw the young girl, screw all of them that had to die, right? And you don't want them going away, but on the other hand, you're doing the work. The pattern is showing that you're more than likely to go out and have to be independent, meaning you're projected to possibly get a better job, move out of the community, buy you a home, doing the things that possibly couples would do in America, right? So you're already showing that you're doing those things while undergoing depression, PTSD, right? While undergoing all of that stuff that you still haven't got true help for, that you still haven't talked about. So underreporting damns the community. You can't love this community and you're underreporting crime. Who I don't give a damn about nobody what other men are going to do to check other men. That's how you got to see it. Because you refuse to see it that way, your counterparts have been competing against you, the woman, the entire time. And not only have they haven't matched you, they go out and get with other women, I guess, that they feel that are matching you or above, and you're like you're still competing with them, and you're doing better than some of them without the help of the counterpart. This is no knock to them because their communities are structured a different way than ours, right? But our community fails to deal with the internal issues. We fail each other every single day. We do it willingly and unwillingly. Families silence victims. I remember watching that video I was telling you about earlier about that lady who I guess abused her daughter during an argument, and the grandmother had to step in, and she was telling the police, "Hey, my daughter's not going to talk." Or when they were asking, which they should have not did that, because I seen a video of a little girl trying to tell that her mother was trying to kill her, and the mother was like, "I don't want my daughter to talk to you," but they was like, "Nah, we're gonna talk to her, and we're gonna talk to her over here because we got this report." So those officers need to handle that the same way. Like, well, we don't care. This was a report that some child abuse was going on, and we need the child separate. But no, the mother was sitting there telling her child, "Don't say nothing. I'm your mother." We have black women like that, ladies. Protective, if they're protecting other men of crime, they're going to protect themselves against crime that they're committing, the abuse they're committing against you, allowing to happen to you, allowing disturbed men to come into the home. So families silence victims. Communities frame reporting as betrayal. How, Sway? How is reporting crime betrayal? How? That's the most loyalist thing you can do for your community. Again, I don't give a damn about what other communities do because whatever they're doing, they're not drowning in economic despair. I don't care how many of them come out and be like, "Well, I don't get this just because I'm white." Like, who cares? I don't care. something they're not paying attention to. And it's never to say, oh, we're all white people. We're just saying the policies are still in place that give certain people advantages over other. And if other people try to take advantage of those policies themselves, they get knocked down for no reason in our country. Churches preach forgiveness without accountability. Why are you going to churches and preachers do not hold any of those men accountable? They don't ever talk to you. They don't ever have a sermon telling you about these crimes and these things in your community. They don't ever have no sermons like that. You don't ever hear, especially the male ones, you never hear them talking about any of that stuff. But you know what? They all be ready to tell you, the women, what you need to do. They so focused on their God and their Bible, they have no idea what PTSD is. They have no idea what depression looks like, what it seems like. They have no idea about sexual abuse and how it affects children. They don't understand that. They're going to tell you to pray about it. They're going to tell you to ask someone that you can't see, you ain't never heard back from, because it's a lie. You got to prove that it's not a lie. You got to prove that it's real, right? But they're telling you to do all this stuff to continue to silence and hide what's going on, to stick to a marriage that is abusive. I don't care about what one church do or other church. This is the overall general culture. So none of that stuff phase me when people who are intellectually dishonest like to say those things. I remember I got in a group with some women a few years ago. Immediately, just passive aggressive, immediately. Oh, well, we got this. And I'm talking about if we got that, then why are some black women or some people still talking about food deserts? Like, be for real. Why are we still dealing with issues? Why are we lying to ourselves, talking about we gonna be all right? That's because you like mediocrity. You appreciate being poor and poverty as if it's a badge for you, but you want to preach God and Jesus all day. Like, come on, y'all. You can't be ignorant like this. You can't belittle or demean your education, because even when you're educated, spirituality, all that stuff has to have a different type of level of thinking and enlightenment for you if you want to go that way. But child sexual abuse, every time a child is being silenced in our community, we don't just protect one predator, we open the door for more victims. So you see how you're silencing children, little girls. You rather call them fast. She taking your man. How does a man say an eighth grader is owning him? Little girls and boys, they may have crushes that are adults, but they don't really understand it. It's just a crush. It's just adult, like, oh my God, you know? But an adult is the one responsible for the actions they take. You're responsible. No child is responsible. Not no 5-year old, no 3-year old, no 12-year old, no 14-year old, no 15-year old, 16 or 17, not even 18-year old. But we seem to allow the mindsets, the ideas, the thought processes of people who refuse to understand, things on a different level, because I guess everything's white. But where's our scientists? Again, where's our scientists? Where are people with the data? Where's our police? Who's policing in our neighborhoods? Are we only policing when some supremacists decide they want to come through? Who's doing that? Think about this, ladies. We opened the door for more victims. Okay? Now, this isn't abstract. Let's look at just some case studies. Let's just take Precious, R. Kelly, and Centoya Brown. Even though there's tons of stuff, one thing about our community, we will look at celebrities and everything, entertainment, and got people mad at Oprah and all this other crap. But you got to understand, you can be the most average family, average people, and this stuff is still happening too. It's still happening. You got black women be like, well, it ain't never happened to me. Who gives a damn? It happened to other black women. 60% of young black girls. Like, okay, you're not in the 60%. You're in the 40% of young. You were in the 40% of young black girls, and you were in the 60% of black women who never experienced that. Or do you know if you're experiencing sexual coercion? Do you even know that you're experiencing that? Do you allow people who don't even read, who don't even get down in medical journals, who don't even research, who says they know how to research and really don't, because they sound ignorant? That's when I'm like, do not allow your education or any of that stuff to be demeaning by people who ain't even on that level, who are mad, jealous, envious, whatever they have, because they're telling you your independence is bad. They're telling you your education, your attainment, your discipline that you did is all bad. So we see the cycles in public cases, right? But we know a lot of, again, go to certain channels that show you parole hearings. These are average looking, below average people who ain't celebrities. And this stuff is real as day. Crime channels, crime shows, real stuff happening. You can go look up police reports, court stuff that's open to the public. Whatever's open to the public, ain't a celebrity you can find there, but you can find someone probably in your community who's doing it, right? And that's from the reports that get reported from the mothers or the fathers who stepped up, or the aunties or uncles who stepped up, right? Precious showed maternal complicity. R. Kelly's victims were dismissed for decades because they were black girls. Because you got a certain subset in the community telling you, adultifying black girls, because the studies came out, because you know what I'm saying, the studies came out, black girls are being adultified from age 5 to 14. 5 to 14. We have an unfortunate sexual deviant criminal who committed sexual assault against, I think she was 2 or 4, and now they're talking about even not a vasectomy, but castration for this dude. So we have to see it as, this is not about protecting people in our community who are doing the things they're supposed to do. It's a clear difference. Some of y'all just love drama, and that drama is degenerate and it's devilish drama. And black women, you're suffering in silence because of it. People admire your resilience, your strength. People who are not in your community, outside of your community, they admire that stuff. But it will be more admirable inside our community for you to step up for the younger girls, so that they don't have to grow up angry, depressed, PTSD, dealing with things that they should not have to endure the rest of their lives. That's why I am always going to be for the victim. I have no sympathy or empathy for no criminal. I don't care. There's too much information for me to feel empathy or sympathy for a criminal more than a victim. These things happen to victims who, let's say, they still end up living, and you don't hear about what's going on with the victims years later. You don't hear about how well they're getting along, if they got the help, right? You don't hear about that stuff. So it just has to stop. Centoya Brown was sentenced to life for defending herself after years of abuse. That's crazy. That should be unheard of. Every black woman should have got out there, regardless of how anybody else felt. Y'all should have been like, hell no. And she got I think, released. But these are not isolated stories. They are systemic patterns of devaluing black girls and women, and I mean from an early age. I don't want to put the system, because again, this is to focus on us internally. But when these things are already happening at a young age with young girls, then you're going to get a certain subset in the community acting up and acting a fool, making degenerate things seem like it's a prize or a reward. Ain't nobody rewarding you for fighting in the streets. You ain't getting no new house. Your mortgage ain't about to get paid. You had to work for that. You had to be disciplined for that. You ain't getting no new car from nobody because you done went and shot up somebody's house or whatever. You have to work for that stuff. You have to do it. You put in the time. You had to take out a student loan because nobody in your community has sacrificed for your future and the future beyond you. And now every black girl who grows up a black woman have to start all over just for their own line, their own lineage. So these things matter. These cases are just high profile case. Even this case, the Centoya Brown. Again, that's probably the most average case of an average person, excuse me, that went public, that was blown up. Precious. It was a fictional story, but it was real. We have maternal envy in our community, incest that gets covered up in our community. Something's wrong. We can't look to depend on other people to help us. I hear that a lot. If you say we're gonna be good and help ourselves, then again, why aren't we pushing our kids to be psychologists, psychiatrists, going into these STEM fields, law, medicine? If we're tired of other people doing stuff, but we're not tired enough, huh? Some people want to sit in that. They want to be a victim. But a lot of us, we don't want to be that, right? That's why you have gone out and became more independent and bought your own house and bought your own car. So you have to realize where these things are stemming from, black women. Now, let's go to the next slide. Let's look at the system failing us, right? Let's bring it down to the system now. Even when black women report, the systems fail. Police label cases as unfounded. Why would they think, let's say they weren't racist. Why would they even think unfounded? Why would it be like, this is unfounded, unheard of? You know what that means? We rarely ever get reports of stuff like this. So it's hard for us to either take it serious or, we did try to take somebody's stuff serious, but they're back with that same man abusing that woman right in front of her kids. Does this mean that in their communities it's not happening? It may. I don't give a damn. This is about us, right? But it's unfounded when it's coming to you because you're not reporting enough. Healthcare dismisses pain. Black women die at 3 times the rate of white women in childbirth, according to the CDC. That means black women, we need to be flooding the healthcare system, right? So these things don't happen. And there's black women that would tell you that these people are practicing this stuff. But no, you'll forget all of that to cover up for somebody in your community that is causing harm. You'll forget all of that knowledge and healthcare information. You can't stand on knowing like, yo, I think differently now, and we need to have more doctors. There was a study that I want to say black people in general. I'm not sure if it was specific for black men, but doctors are decreasing. Sometimes black women, the stuff that you're going through is not new. People before us were very resilient. But that's kind of why in the past few presentations I spoke about getting into these fields, learning the skills so that you can start your own firms or healthcare companies. And because that's what we need, more clinics. You can't be just in the South and be like, well, we got that here. Not enough, honey, because it ain't over the whole. We are Americans. The whole U.S. should cover us. right? Workplaces misinterpret assertiveness as aggression. So automatically, because people in our community holds on to saying you're so angry without understanding why are you so angry today, asking better questions. Are you okay today? Do you need a hug? What's going on? Not trying to fill up on you, not trying to be your man, but literally, what's going on, sis? Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? Do you want me to call someone? Being truly concerned with the state of mind that a black woman or a young black girl is in. Instead, people want to compete for the most oppressive, right? Digital spaces disproportionately target us with harassment. Now, again, it's just based on my work. I'm not saying I know who everybody is behind their uh, social media profile, especially if they're not showing their face and stuff. But I can guarantee, because I'm so intertwined and know different communities, how we communicate, how we talk, I guarantee I know who's behind some of this stuff. And it ain't white people and stuff like that all the time. It's definitely not. And to lie to yourselves, to not think that's not what's happening, that is not people from your own community, is crazy. When even other black women are laughing at black women, to me, I'm like, are they mentally ill? Like, you're still in that grouping, ma'am? Get some self esteem about yourself. You can be prideful all you want. That doesn't mean you got self esteem. People put on fronts all the time. That doesn't mean you got self esteem. If you hating, or jealous, or ready to see another black woman tore down, that is not pertinent to her, or you're laughing at her getting tore down, but she's probably more disciplined than you, man. She got a career going for herself, ma'am. She probably got her own house, her own car, ma'am. So why would you even side with someone on here that is probably barely matching this black woman over here? He's probably barely matching her, and there's tons more black women that are overmatching him, just overly doing it. Easy, easy work. But if you knew this information and understood yourself to know, hey, we don't have to be up here putting up with that. We can have our own channels, and we only want to talk to men. Again, I don't care about the color or whatever. There's just men who can have decent conversations and bring real conversations. You're letting street talk about lames and simps and all that. Like, y'all got to realize that's detrimental. That's continuing to put a negative connotation to education. Aren't you embarrassed about hearing people in your community saying that? Does that not make you feel offended that you were disciplined enough to go and learn something new so that you can get ahead in America? Don't you think that should be embarrassing to them, shameful that they even let a thought in their mind because of bitterness, whatever they're feeling, because it's literally from some type of emotionally charged issue they're having, and they let it out. Other black women letting out that emotionally charged, uh, illogical thought come out as if they're some type of toddler, no control over their own thoughts. It should embarrass them. It should be shameful to say stuff like that. Like, who else is doing that but them? Yet, you have people that still want to talk about what white people are doing and, oh, the schools they going to. But y'all not even in the white world deep enough. Y'all don't have friends that are white. But you tell them, they're white. Ladies, if you were in those worlds, especially being in the corporate life, that should give you the insight. That should give you insight that, no, some of these people got their shit together here. They know about how to get more money, funding, how to present to their own. You know what I'm saying? They know all of that, and you can learn that too. And if people in our community don't want to be in the greater society, again, ladies, you got to leave. You got to get out. You got to go. It's time to go. So this is systemic neglect, not accident, but design. So We still are under a design for black women. You know what I'm saying? We're still under a design. We still get affected in these areas. But what can we do? Get more and more of us in these fields. Get in these fields. Laying back, taking it, get in these fields so you can infiltrate. And you could be all up in there and bring some real unbiased attention. Shut down people who's doing stuff like that. Be like, yo, we gonna put a stop to it. We just gonna put a stop. We gonna as much a stop as we can. We gonna That's what we gonna do. That's how you have to think about it, ladies. You got black women dying still in 2025, 2024, 2023 of maternal mortality, excuse me, high. We don't have enough doctors that are out there to deliver these babies. We rather promote doulas instead of get our asses into the freaking healthcare system. Stop demeaning yourselves and taking the lesser road. Our ancestors, our people continue to fight. That's how they even got to where they were. Take that and get your ass into the field so you can deliver some damn babies. So you can prepare those women. Sounds like a solution to me, right? All right, let's go to the next one. Now let's go into digital age targeting, online and social targeting. Our wigs, our weaves, our independence mocked relentlessly. And be real, who's doing that the most? Because I can tell when it's someone else from another culture just using it because they hang around people who brought down their value, right? They brought down their value by even engaging in stuff like that, right? But understand, it's not about hair, it's strategy. It's meant to incite anger, that angry black woman. So when we respond, we're discredited. And then you don't have, again, no one there to see your vulnerability, to give you that hug, to talk to you, to back up, to do any of that. You still don't have those people here. So this is, again, why you're independent, why you have to be independent. It all comes full circle, ladies. This is psychological warfare. That's really all it is. How can you beat psychological warfare? Understanding psychology yourself. Reading some books, ladies. Get lost in the sauce in some books, some psychology, some psychiatry. Even if it's not your field, just understanding some basic stuff is not hidden from us. It's not. Instead of going into the daily celebrity gossip for the day, say, hey, I only on Friday. Make it a Friday thing or a Saturday thing. You make it a weekend thing where you're like, all right, today, because I want my brain to dumb down today, I'll watch and listen to that stuff because my brain needs to relax. But outside of that, this is why I can probably speak on a lot of different conversations. I'm well rounded because I don't limit myself to ignorant conversations. Some people don't even like when you're talking about this stuff in your own community because they have already defeated themselves. They have already given up. These attacks are bait. The power lies in not internalizing them, but exposing them. There has to be sorry about that. There has to be exposure. You can never expose someone by sweeping it under the rug, putting a blanket over it. Oh, someone's gonna hurt the harasser, the abuser. Someone's gonna abuse them more than they abuse a young child or another woman or someone in our community who was doing the job they were supposed to do. Oh, you're more worried about that instead of exposure. And then when the women came out to expose it, you sided with people who are probably aligning with white supremacy, and you forgot why we were fighting the whole entire time. But now you want to mount up. Nah, you should have been mounted up. You should have been seeing it seeping its way right into your freaking community, right into your homes, seeping its way in there. And we've been fighting for a long time, black women. So you got this online. You got people from all walks of life want to join in now because certain black women out there cannot get their attitudes in check, who don't go and get that help that's outside of your community to talk about it, therapy, because we tell each other to hide it. We shame those women, those young girls. So now we got a bigger problem that we're seeing or we've seen. I don't think none of this stuff is new. They can talk about sex ed and all. It's not new to me. It's just a difference of time. And who knows that allowing these type of women, certain women, women in hip hop or whatever, to come out and do their thing. Who knows if it was a plot? Because let's be real, we had the little Kims back in the day. We had a lot of those women back in the day. What's so different now? All of a sudden, some people want to act like they got a conscience. Okay, these are not. So let me tell you just about. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Let's go to the next one. The cost of silence. The cost of silence is generational devastation. RAINN, which is RAIN, reports that 94% of child sexual abuse victims know their abuser. So these kids know who it is. They're not lying. You don't want to lie to yourself, and you want to tell the kid to lie to themselves because you lying to yourself because you can't stand up. You not being the lioness and kicking them the hell out. You're not being the hyena. You're not being a bonobos. You're not being the elephant. You're not protecting anymore. That natural thing that you have is gone because they told you doing that natural stuff, what makes you a woman, what makes you a female human being. Oh, shut that down. Because I'm so insecure, I can't protect you if you're so good at protecting yourself, if you're so good at being independent. Nonsense. Reckless, stupid logic. Nonsense. You gotta leave that community, ladies. You gotta leave it. These are not strangers. What does it take? What does it take for you guys to realize that it is someone in the family? It is someone in the neighborhood that y'all know. But we don't want this person to be dealt with. Nobody around you are dealing with it, so why not let people whose job is to actually deal with it? These are in fact fathers, cousins, stepfathers, coaches, pastors. And every time a family stays silent, another girl becomes unprotected. Silence is not loyalty. Silence is complicity. So we know who it is, but because people want to protect an image and not realizing protecting that image, but also destroying that image at the same time, that's nothing that you need to be fixing. We here today to fix our image. We want to continue to fix our image because there's black women who tried, right? They tried. So we can't be focused on anyone else. We got to focus on what's bothering the black woman, what's eating at her, so she can fix and I don't say the word fix, so she can heal herself, give herself the proper treatment to live a happy, just life, right? We have a lot of complicity. And then you letting people just scapegoat and gaslight, like they just found something new to do. And I'm just like, why are you even talking to them? Like, they shouldn't even be allowed in your conversations anymore if they can't come and talk like they got sense. You can't, because they can't go out and claiming they're kings or all this other stuff, but yet come to you and talk like they just learned something. Like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work in the greater society. This is why you're not in those big rooms like that. This is why you're not the executives and managers and CEOs of these big companies, and black women are working towards that, right? You're working towards being those type of executives and leaders. Even in our own companies, that's what we should be working towards, right? so that when those 300,000 black women lost those jobs, we had work already ready. Oh, we got, hey, this sister over there, we got a couple sisters that has a couple of openings, and y'all would fit perfectly in these areas, in these positions, because you've done the work, you were disciplined enough to go to school, and this is why you deserve to even get a job at this level, at this salary range. Healing and intervention. So let's go to the next thing. We're almost done here. Healing and intervention. Breaking cycles requires intentional healing. So you have to be very intentional on how you're going to heal yourself, black women. Therapeutic healing. Modalities like trauma focused CBT and EMDR are proven effective. So whether it's BetterHelp or through your jobs business, I mean your jobs benefits package that you get. First things first, when you get those good jobs, get you a therapist. Get you someone you can go and let out what happened to you, so you can get that off your chest, get that out of your mind. I'm not saying it's gonna clear, but get it out your mind and get some steps to better yourself, and then work on your money so that you can get away. Economics, pushing girls into STEM trades and entrepreneurships builds independence. When they took out certain skill based programs in the high schools or junior highs, we should have been there to fulfill that need. A lot of these kids in the streets doing below, like certain stuff is just below, like beneath what should be beneath us, in my opinion. We have so many people in our community that have done so well. Some things are just really beneath. You're leading them into homeless how homeless need to make a living. Some of the things I've seen. So pushing your young girls into these areas, they don't have to look into stripping. If they want to strip, it's because they just want to do it because it's fun. And I'm still not going to judge them. But at least I would know that, yeah, that woman will put money into her career. And some that we know, and I remember Players Club, you know, Diamond, she was a stripper, but she was like, yo, I'm doing this because this is the only way I can help myself to go to school, to pay for some of the stuff or the things I want to do in school, right? Community, survivor networks, and Black led therapy collectives like Black Women's Blueprint create safe spaces. We need more in every community we're in, ladies. We need to have a staple like this in our community. Every one. We need to allow young girls to come into these community survivor networks so that they can talk about it, and we band together like the elephant women in my previous presentation, like the elephant, female elephants. They now is protecting mode, and get this young lady proper assistance, not covering up, going to who's the abuser. Okay, we don't listen to men that tell you don't believe what's going on. The data here backs up why you should be believing her. What a fool. And people are still praising some person who was emotionally unintelligent and said some stuff like that. When 60% of young black girls are experiencing that under 18. What kind of recklessness was that coming out of that person's mouth? That was straight up reckless. And that made us look damn bad. Oh my God, that was so bad. Why would you want that on the world stage? That's how y'all gotta see it. Just bad. That's woo. Y'all should have been shut that down. But you gotta expose, right? You gotta expose it. Family. Boundaries must be enforced. Unsafe men must be removed. And that includes, and I'm just not saying to say unsafe men, unsafe family members need to be removed. Silence must end, pretty much. Because we're talking about your mamas, the aunties, the grandma, any of them that is contributing to this harmful nature amongst our young children needs to be removed. We don't cover for them. We don't back them up. The kids are gonna grow up one day to be wonderful. So you got them. You got that to look forward to, right? Should you help lead them in the right direction, you really got that to look forward to. You got kids in the foster care system running away, becoming, getting on the streets because they're being coerced on the streets because they ain't got nobody. They don't have no mama and no daddy. No family came for them. Nobody came for them. But we sitting up here covering up for people. We have to stop that black woman. I don't care what anyone else does. We have to have a healthier way moving forward. And when I talk about contributing economically and through the way the I would say the career choices, economics, investing, when we look at that stuff, we have to look at it as this is how we can change the direction that we've been going. Okay, so this is what I'm putting out there for you ladies. Let's go to the last one. We got a few more to go. Now let's reframe our responses. I was pretty young when I realized how some black women were just automatically angry. I come from a home. I didn't grow up with a single mom. I had dad and mom. So I experienced both of them, their discipline or their ways. But my mom seemed to have came off more angrier at times. And as I got older and she started to tell me about things, I start to understand how my mom became who she is, and still, again, coming through a different era, never getting help, never getting help, no one coming to talk about it. I remember because my mom had to go into the foster care system because the situation got bad, right? But knowing that some family members were still cool with the abuser. The abuser was gone. The abuser passed away a long time ago for my mom, right? But the fact that people recognize that. And then when your children don't want to be around you because you have failed to figure out how to control your anger, so now your children don't even want to be around you. They barely want to talk to you. When they make it, they barely want to give you anything back because they had to go out and do it themselves. Your daughters had to go out and be independent by themselves. They had to do that. And again, this is for black women, but when you're even talking about the counterparts mad about that stuff, it's because some of them never had to be independent themselves. So they don't know what it feels like to sustain and be self sufficient, to go out and be disciplined. They don't know how to do that. But it's not for you to be making up for it, right? Because you had to figure it out. So why can't they do the same thing? That's where that leadership comes in, that resilience, that person you need to look up to because they went through it. So they will be the best guide, the best master teacher. So we have to start reframing our anger. Anger is not pathology, meaning it's not synonymous with black women. But what we're going to do is look into the data and what, through the trauma, through the family line, through our families, the stuff that's going on. And that's how we can say why we are the way we are. Why some of us are just angry and just snap when it can be reframed. It could be better. If you were a little bit more educated, if you knew a little bit more, I'm telling you, there's some of the reasons that you're snapping on people. It should be a joke. It should be something you start to play games with them with at some point because you're like, you're really trying it and you can just turn it on them and they'll be more mad than you. I guarantee if you just knew to reframe your anger better. Anger, again, I'm going to read this again. Anger is not pathology, it is data. It tells us where injustice lives. The APA has shown that chronic exposure to discrimination elevates cortisol, the stress hormone, which explains why Black women's stress often translate into visible frustration. There are Black women who died of stress, ladies. They've died because they were stressed the fuck out. So this is why you have to get away from a community, from a subset of culture that is stressing you out, that is intending, that's their intention every day to get up and stress you out because something's going on with them. Survival is not aggression. Independence is not arrogance. Anger is not weakness. It is a compass pointing us to what needs to change. So that's how we got to see it, ladies. What needs to change? And these are very important areas to look into. Okay? So think about it. How can I reframe my anger? Before you get upset, before you feel like you gotta just say whatever comes to your mind like you're some freaking child, some toddler, you gotta think about, why am I even getting upset? Why would this person, is this person intentionally trying to make me mad? That's how you gotta see it. Because that, I guarantee you, that's what's happening. They will, the person trying to make you mad is probably the most ignorant person you can come across, and that's their intention because they ain't got nothing else better to do. So what you gonna do about it? Be upset, yell back at them, curse them out, because you feel I gotta do this, girl. You ain't getting no rewards for doing that. But people laughing at you, and some barely laughing with you. Some people hyping you up to be an ignorant person who just had to tell somebody something. When there's so many ways to get at people, it's so many ways. That's why it's important to get into law so you can know how to stop that. Hurt people financially, hurt them financially, or take away that freedom if they put their hands on you. But that should never be your first response. And you should be glad that a lot of people haven't. If for those who've been physical with people, you should be glad that nobody's put you in jail for putting your hands on them. But you have a chance right now to reframe your responses, right? Taking this time to do that. Now, here's my call to Black women, to Black women out there, to the ones who see me as their sister, see me as someone who can help guide, as someone who's here to just provide information, guidance. It was not your fault. Number one, it was never your fault. I never blame a child for what a grown adult does. That, like, I'm not slow like that. That's for people who are really slow, people who are trying to hide something. Okay, so it was never your fault, young ladies. Never your fault, Black women. Your survival is not weakness, it is power. Again, through everything the line of Black women came through, we still had to be resilient. We still had to pursue. We had to be independent. So there is no that deserves a reward at the end of the day. And your truth, spoken aloud, is protection, not betrayal. Don't speak up for people in the community more than you're speaking up for yourself. I sometimes I'd be so frustrated seeing comments that never include Black women, and it becoming, and the stuff be coming from a Black woman, but it never includes you into that. Why? Because you probably don't even know this information. You probably don't didn't even look into yourself. You didn't even look into what's going on with you. But you were so ready to protect somebody else first. If you protect yourself, you can protect other people. If you got money or your economics and things are right, then you can go help somebody. You got Black women who ain't got nothing helping homeless people, right? But she can't help them forever because some type of religious belief makes her feel she's going to be rewarded. And there's no proof anything is that Bible is fact. It's just a belief. But if she went out, got into a good career, focused on the skill, made some money, and said, "All right, I'm about to invest in the homeless a little bit more." Some people may say, "Oh, it's not about it." In this economy, it's always been about that. And if it wasn't about dollars, it would have been about conks or gold or whatever. And then again, human trafficking, bodies. If y'all understood these things, You wouldn't be talking of ignorance, this immorality of ignorance that you spit out your mouth like it's true. You sound defeated to me. You sound defeated. The cycles stop when we stop silencing ourselves. I don't like, do not care if it's some other woman's son. Don't give a damn about that. With the situation with Megan Thee Stallion, I don't even, I'm not even hating or anything. I'm just going to bring up the situation, the scenario. For her to experience what she experienced and people flipped it on her, reversed it on her, though these are clear examples, clear signs, clear signals to Black women of what it is and what you need to start changing up. This is no, you don't got to be out here thinking that, oh, I'm on disrespect and I feel this. You're not. What you're working on is the community that your ancestors were already working for. That's what you're looking to work on. The women who said, I have to be independent, I got to get this money. And some of them still had men, they still had husbands. So there is really no problem. It's people who just want to be ignorant, who want to attack you, who aligns with probably some white supremacist thought processes. But it's nothing that's your fault. You had to be this. It should be an embarrassment to them. Every community should see them as an embarrassment, even trying to come over, even trying to talk about their women or other women are better when you're competing with those women in your job every day. Like, what kind of nonsense? They don't even know what's going on in their community. How are you going to protect something you don't even know what's going on? And I'm here to tell you what's going on with Black women. This is what's going on for you to heal from it and move forward. So, in closing, silence never protected us, it only protected abusers. This is our time to heal in all this chaos, to report, to demand accountability, responsibility from those individuals who are harmful. They have to deal with the consequences in reality, not when God comes back or when they die, not giving them forgiveness. Forgive them if you want, but they need to be put in somebody's prison. Spend some time. They need to be sat down in the prison. Remember when I think it was some, I forgot who it was, but spending that time alone. That's important. Think about that. That time alone in silence sometimes. Things can be revealed to you. So sometimes when you think about putting someone down, they need to be sat down because they're never gonna stop. It's ignorant. It's naive, gullible to think someone is just gonna change overnight. No wounds here overnight, right? You can't get a cut and think that's gonna be gone and healed up the next day. It starts to heal. It starts a process. A tree doesn't grow to be this big redwood tree overnight. It takes years for that to happen, decades even, for that to even be the strongest, one of the strongest trees, right? So it's the same. You uh, keeping yourself away from nature takes away these simple thoughts, these simple designs of life and who you are or who you can be. You can't help other women by not protecting them. You can't help other women being afraid all the time because some man wants to be huffing and puffing. You got a Second Amendment right here. You can be just as confident as them. You can go out and run and work out and do some strength training. Again, every woman may not beat every man, but every man can't beat every woman, but it gives you a fighting chance than to just sit there and take it, letting someone beat down on your self-esteem and their self-esteem is wrecked. Their confidence is wrecked. Now, this is our time to heal, to report, to demand accountability, responsibility from families, from communities, from systems. Some of y'all family members ain't gonna like you checking them. They ain't gonna like it. They ain't gonna like the truth. That means it's time to go. It's time to go. As the African proverb says, when you educate a woman, you educate a nation. When Black women heal, generations heal. I thank you guys for coming to my presentation today. I definitely am going to work on some more of these. I please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you guys have an awesome, awesome day. Thank you again.